900,000 people who were able to get their first injection. The available drugs will leave out an estimated 600,000 without the second dose, and a lot of uncertainty as to when they will get the second dose is rife in the air. The story here on the top header of the front page is the search for killers as detectives trace the girl's last moment and question a person of interest. I will be sure to look at that particular story following the death of this young girl who was found, her body dumped in a sack. Coming to the main story here on the front page of the Daily Nation, or rather one of the main stories here on the front page. The ruling, Uhuru revisits BBI. Now, court declared the process null and void and ruled that President Kenyatta had failed to uphold constitutional principles. On the other hand, when it comes to the fight back, in front of the audience who were captivated at the stadium yesterday, thousands were following these particular celebrations as we were marking the Madaraka Day, and President Kenyatta did hit back at the judiciary for stopping the law review. And quoted here, he said, from the nullification of the presidential elections back in 2017 to an attempt to stop the will of the people as expressed through the BBI, the judiciary, yes, has tested our constitutional limits. Okay? That story has been covered in great detail on page 4 of this particular daily. We will be looking at it in a bit. And finally, the highlights of yesterday's Madaraka Day celebrations at the Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium in Kisumu. They have highlighted, key areas that caught people's attention was from the president's speech to Ruto on the rule of law, Raila's glory, and of course the music and funfair that was there as a source of entertainment. Looking at the People Daily, just one story on the front page. Uhuru takes on judiciary over the BBI ruling, saying that we need to let the people decide, as he went on to accuse the independent institutions of stretching our democratic boundaries beyond limit, adding that Kenyans should be allowed to make a decision on the law amendment bid at the ballot, and it should not end at the courts. That is what the People Daily and the Daily Nation have for us on their front pages this morning. Ray.
Now, picking off from where you left off there, just looking at those that are making headlines, Jane, is similarly, the take home from the president's speech during the Madaraka Day celebrations there. My priority remains growing the economy and transforming the lives of Kenyans, says President Kenyatta. He went into a detail to just give some of his achievements in words, citing the growth of the economy at the GDP that has grown to 10.3 trillion from 4.5 trillion under the administration of Mzee Kenyatta, Moi and Kibaki. Well, then 5.1 million title deeds have been issued in the last 7 years. The Lamu Port, the first deep sea port to be built in Kenya since the port of Mombasa in 1896. That's 125 years ago. He also pointed out the issue of the railway, revived the 566-kilometer railway, meter gauge railway. Then also there's the BBI, where Kenya lost close to 1 billion shillings every working hour in 123 days during the 2017 elections, and 30% of the national government budget in every 5 years due to toxic politics. Also, he mentioned the issues of hospitals as well as renal units that have been put in place. In 6 years, 54 renal units have been built across the 47 counties. That is just in a nutshell as to what President Uhuru Kenyatta pointed out as his agenda, rather his track record during his tenure. Albeit issues of the BBI hitting a snag there. According to President Uhuru Kenyatta and his address to the judiciary, he said, "You shot down the people's will." And this is in regard to the court. So today we'll be keenly focusing what is going to be happening in the corridors of justice there, with the petitions being lined up there. Now, some of the twists is that now the presence of the new CJ Kome, the president says the nullification of the presidential election and BBI process was an attempt to stop the will of the people and calls for a conversation on the consequences of choice. And I say consequences. Whenever we talk about consequences, what comes into my head was that particular statement in regard to "we shall revisit." But remember, we are live. We're not here to state our opinions, but we give you a platform to share your views in regard to what we broadcast for you there. So that is what is happening. The judiciary on the cross. The front page of the Standard has that as a big read, including to issues of COVID-19 and the flaunting of those safety measures down in Kisumu County, as Kenyans forgot for a moment that we're dealing with a crisis that is the COVID-19 pandemic there. There was no social distancing. A majority of Kenyans there did not have their masks on. Are we courting danger or chaos? Well, we'll soon know. 14 days, we will tell. This is just some of what has been given headlines, or rather priority, in this particular daily here, including matters of business and across our neighboring country there, Uganda, where a minister's kin and driver was shot dead in an attempted assassination in Uganda. We'll be giving you details as we focus on the stories making headlines across borders. But in a nutshell, that's what we have on the Standard.
Now we get to those details that we had promised you, and let's start with this one that is on all the dailies this morning in regards to His Excellency's revisit of the BBI, as the captions and the headers read, as he takes on the judiciary of a BBI ruling. And coming to what the Daily Nation has for us in regards to this is that here they go on to say that President Kenyatta yesterday went on the offensive against the judiciary over BBI, accusing judges of constitutional rigidity that is denying Kenya the opportunity to address its cycle of election troubles. He warned that while he stands by the rule of law and will always obey the decisions of the courts, he is also compelled, yes, by his position to heed the sovereign and supreme voice of the Kenyan people. Now, just looking at His Excellency's speech, a bigger chunk of it was heavily focusing on the BBI. He spent a significant time talking about the BBI and said it was far from over, describing the court order stopping the process as an attempt to usurp the will of the people. Now, having since filed his personal appeal against the ruling, President Kenyatta invoked what he said was the true test of freedom, the consequences of choice. The day we shall all become woke and fully aware of consequences of choice, we will move very far ahead as a people. Now, coming back to this story, he's quoted saying, the balance of freedom and consequence of choice is probably most challenged by the growth of our independence as an institution. Their growth has stretched our democratic boundaries to the limit, but it has not cracked them. And if what we are seeing here in our country was happening in any other African country, having this BBI process stopped by the courts and experiencing the political turns and twists that we have been experiencing, any other country in the search of perfection would have burst asunder. In essence, saying that we need to let the rule of law apply, and the courts are stretching their limits beyond what the Constitution allows when it comes to how they handle some of these cases. So we are yet to see how this is going to play out. Chief Justice Martha Koome just 10 days ago listened a few meters away to where she was seated at the dais in the stadium, listening keenly to what the president was saying, and we are yet to see how she is going to be handling this particular case, because it is said to be one of the biggest milestones that she will have to handle as the new CJ for the country. Right.
Now, to just give some views that have been posted by political analyst Dunstan Omari, and I read quote unquote what he has said. He says, this is in regard to the president's speech: in my own view, the Constitution is a big brother to President Uhuru Kenyatta. It is actually stopping him and his brother ODM leader Raila Odinga from doing what they want. The judiciary, as per Uhuru's speech during the Madaraka Day celebrations, is a dangerous animal that is not in tandem with the reality of the president's wishes. In sum total, the president is likely not going to appoint the 41 pending judges. Remember, what is going to be happening today, being Wednesday, is that the Court of Appeal judges are sitting today, and they will be listening into appeals in regard to that particular verdict that was given by the High Court in regard to the BBI. Remember the question that we have been asking you for the last 3 weeks or so. Did reggae stop, or was it temporal, or was it permanent? Now, the Court of Appeal judges will be sitting today. And according to this particular analyst, they listened keenly into what the president was saying in regard to the judgments that have been made by the judiciary, pointing out the nullification of the 2017 presidential elections as well as the BBI, saying that they went against the will of the people. One of the dailies here says that the recent judgment overturned the people's will, diminished their power, and stifled efforts to fix ills that have bedeviled the country. What is your take, given that the Court of Appeal will be sitting today to listen into petitions in regard to that particular verdict given by the High Court in regard to matters of BBI? Our communication lines are open, especially on Twitter. You can get us on our official Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1 News. We have a Jane Wamboi and Ray Manyara. What is your take in that regard? Now, pointing also into stories that have continued making headlines, now I want to shift focus from matters of politics. Jane, if you may.
Yes, please.
The issue, or rather the probe into the gruesome murder of one businessman there, going by the name Mohammed Bashir Mohamud, man of Somali American, or rather where he's Somali American, that's what they refer to him now. Apparently the FBI has backed off from the murder probe, and the question is why? Now, according to this particular piece, is that the FBI, that's the Federal Bureau of Investigations, will no longer take part in unearthing the killing of the Somali American Mohammed Bashir Mohamud, and this is according to police sources. The detectives at the heart of the case says the Bureau withdrew from the probe, saying it was purely a Kenyan issue. It is not clear why the FBI made that drastic decision, but now according to Bashir's family lawyer, Charles Mado, who had initially confirmed that one FBI agent had been detailed to the probe, and given the trader was an American citizen there. Now, there have been efforts to ascertain as to why the FBI has pulled off, but there's no quite response there, and no one is giving the family, the details that they regard. Now, the family lawyers have written, or rather had written, to the Director of Public Prosecutions, that is Nudin Haji, to institute an independent inquest to run parallel to the police investigations. Now, remember, just to give you a recap, is that Bashir's body was discovered at the bank of Nyamidi River in Kerugoya, Kirinyaga, after he disappeared on May 13th. Now, the 36-year-old contractor went missing after he visited the Lavington-based Miale Entertainment Lounge for Eid celebrations. His black Range Rover seemed blocked by another car, and shortly he left the establishment. Later, his car was found burnt to a shell in a thicket in Kibiko area, Ngong, Kajiado County. We'll be keeping tabs on that, and may his soul continue resting in peace, and may his perpetrators be found. May justice be served to him and also his family. Jane.
Now, to just also pick up on another murder story, and this is the murder of 8-year-old Chantelle. This story has been covered on both the Daily Nation and the People Daily. And then looking at the Daily Nation is that More detail has emerged as there was a witness who said a light-skinned woman left with Chantelle holding her hand between 3 and 4 p.m. So it has now emerged that when Chantelle was out playing with her friends, there seems to be a light-skinned woman who approached her and a few others and was inquiring as to whether there was a vacant house in that area. And she later on walked away holding Chantelle's hand. And it wasn't until much later when Chantelle's mom went out to look for her and could not find her. And later on that evening, she got a phone call from a woman whose voice she described as a gravely old woman's voice that called her more than 70 times demanding for money. So according to the statement that the girl's mother gave, is that her daughter said that she's going out to play with one of her friends called Sharon. But when she got there, she didn't find Sharon, so she went on to play with a few other people. And these kidnappers were demanding 300,000 Kenya shillings, which did not make sense because, as per the detectives, Chantelle's parents are casual laborers at a different organization. Now, coming to the People Daily, it also has more details in regards to this story. And here, as per what the DCI has unearthed so far, is that this gang that kidnapped and later killed 8-year-old girl may have mistook her for a daughter of a police, indicating questions as to whether there was a deal that went sour due to the amount of money that they were asking for. And this is preliminary reports, investigations that have been done so far. So what they go on to say is that Chantelle and Sharon, the girl that Chantelle was hoping to go out and play with, they are about the same height, about the same size in terms of their body, have about the same complexion, and they had similar hairstyles. So, and their parents do not know each other. However, Sharon's parents are police officers. So you can read more of that there on the Daily Nation to understand these new intrigues that are coming up. Is it a question of a deal gone sour, or what really is happening in this particular case? We take a very quick breather. We'll be back to continue with what the papers have for us this morning. Stay with us.
Je, unajua haswa wakati huu wa COVID-19 unaweza wasiliana nasi kupitia 0800724499 au kwa kutumia barua pepe kwa comments@ira.go.ke. Unaweza pia kutembelea tovuti yetu kwa www.ira.go.ke au kwa mitandao ya kijamii. Sasa umejua, IRA, bima bora kwa taifa. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If your daughter won't cooperate, then you're being useless. So you do what you have to do, but I want her to have enough nutrition and to get stronger. Is that clear?
If you had told me that you already had a partner, everything about us would have been completely different, Dad.
Believe me, I had tried. Honestly.
Look, Uncle, the sad thing is, well, your son is a criminal and he must pay for what he did. I couldn't believe he came to rob us. You know what I mean. He took advantage of our trust in you, so he deserves it.
I'm going to see a lawyer, Maya. After that terrible thing that you did,
You have said
I'm going to
enough.
sue for custody. And I won't give her to you ever again. And you're not sending her to America. You hear me?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi ndiye Dr. Chua, Alwatan Chua.
Mimi ndiye Dr. Sawasawa.
Mimi ni Dr. Ashraf mwenye hii hospitali.
Ashraf si lolote hapa.
Wewe daktari, hospitali ni yako kabisa?
I am the boss.
Okay.
That's all. Get passion
Huyu mwanangu mimi namuona kulegea tu.
Afaa tumpatie chupa moja ya maji.
Maji asikioni.
Hii chupa moja mama kisha tufanya sahali. Lakini kama wengine tutatia lita 20.
Si majanga haya.
Next passion.
Basi.
Next passion.
Yuendesha.
Huyo amuzo bongo.
Next on.
Sasa. Poa sana.
Umekaa muda bila kuja hapa.
Si unajua last time nilitengeneza nywele vibaya sana.
Oh, na vile tumetengeneza vizuri. Kwani siku hizi ni pesa una ama nini? Tangu nikushuke.
Chau.
Pesa ama shughuli.
Pita napiga.
Ngoja kwanza niongee.
Na haraka kidogo tafadhali.
Una haraka?
Unaenda
wapi?
Msema wewe ni nini unafanyia pesa yako wewe? Nini? Wewe lama. Na bado unaendelea kucheka. Nini? Mse unafanya nika umetoka kunyolewa na kiposho mil mse. Acha mchana.
Huo ni ungwana.
Indeed, you're still watching Good Morning Kenya here on KBC Channel 1, and we're just looking at those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Yes. Now, before we took that particular break there, Jane had highlighted the story of, Chantelle there. And this is a particular murder probe that is being carried out by the DCI there. And there's a follow-up to that has been captured on the Standard, Jane, where that incident in Kitengela, after that incident with Sharon, Chantelle, and such, Kitengela residents have continued to express concern over rising insecurity in the town. And those who spoke to the media said the situation has worsened over the last 3 months. They say the rising insecurity might affect, investor confidence in the fastest growing town. And this points to that conversation I was telling you, Jane, that if you look at the fiscal planning, or rather just the planning of Ongata Rongai, which falls under also Kajiado County, same as Kitengela, you'd see a huge difference. You'd see how Kitengela is growing, or rather coming up. And them raising this particular concern in regard to insecurity affecting their business, I think they have, that's actually a real concern, because look at, what we have seen with the growth of Kitengela, and also in terms of revenue collection and such. Kitengela and Ongata Rongai really fill the coffers of Kajiado County. So if this continues happening, then indeed it's going to affect even how business is done, and this just comes barely in the wake of the disappearance of 4 men who were spotted at a joint in Kitengela, then found murdered and their bodies dumped way far from Kitengela. So matters of insecurity, Kajiado County, they're on the spot. We grew up hearing about Ngong Forest being a dump site for bodies and executions. Remember the JM Karaoke murder that we've never got answers to. And whenever I hear Ngong, that is what hits my head. Then further still, we are also mourning our own colleague there, Betty Barasa, who was murdered in her home in Ngong area. So matters of insecurity, especially in Kajiado County, is quite worrying.
And just to bring it closer home, Ray, just looking at this story about Chantelle, how often do your kids just tell you, I'm going out to play? And you trust that they are safe because they are within the bounds of your estate or your building's perimeter walls. And then a stranger walks up to them, speaks with them, and walks away with your child. Goes back to the security of your home. Are you confident that the security that is provided by whoever is you are letting their house, or the agency or the estate that is in charge of your building, do you trust them enough to uphold security to a point where you are sure that your child will not be taken by any random stranger, because there is a God that is actually doing their work and is aware of each and every child and each and every person who lets a house there.
Sadly, the truth is the form of parenting that we are in right now is very individual and personal, where if I cannot correct your child for bad behavior, then I also would not really care who picks her or him. That is a fact. And that's why now it goes, what are you teaching your child? You know, us growing up, our parents would tell us, not talking to strangers. You're not getting anything from any stranger other than me, or that is the mother or the father. No person, you know, those things that you empower your child with. Also, now we need to go back to the basics, because this world has become cruel. If we can start targeting children in grown-up misunderstandings, and we bring children into the fore, then basically we have gone to the dogs. So it's about us as guardians, us as parents. If you have a daughter, if you have a son, if you have a charge or you're a ward, you have a word with you. I mean, empower them so that they know that security to take care of themselves, and security begins with them. Any suspicious person around them, anything that they are offered, they shouldn't take, because you never know. You know, this is actually very chilling, because I'm putting myself in the
shoes of
the shoes of the parent who already, we are saying, probably they were targeting
a different child. And
now now in this case we're talking about
Chantelle.
Imagine the parents living with the guilt, knowing that their child was the one who was being targeted, but unfortunately another child, a neighbor's child, was targeted, picked, kidnapped and murdered. The guilt that you live with, and not so much guilt because you wouldn't want your child to die, right? But then again, that issue, those relations between those two families have remained changed for a lifetime.
And mind you, as per what the DCI are saying, is that these parents did not even know each other. Yes, they lived in the same estate setup, but they didn't know each other. It was only their children who knew each other, and the children happened to look almost the same, physically speaking. And as per what has been put on the papers, it could have been a case of mistaken identity because of a deal that may have gone sour due to the amount of money that they were requesting for. Again, wherever you choose to live as a person, if you have the means to control or to dictate the levels to which you wish your child to be secure, make the most of it. Make the most of it. You know, I have an 8-year-old, and whenever we talk about these cases that involve children who end up in murder cases, you see your child in that position. And as a parent, it just sends shivers, you know. But let's hope that they do find the perpetrators in this particular case. As per the DCI, there is a person of interest. So let us wait and see how this will continue to unfold. Now let's go to the back page of the Daily Nation. And this is in regards to the COVID-19 vaccination process. So 900,000 Kenyan people were vaccinated, at least the first dose. This particular group expected to get the second dose as of this week, flowing through to the next 4 weeks. The time frame, 8 weeks to 12 weeks, is what is recommended. But as per what the ministry says, and this is through the National Vaccine Task Force, the chairman, Dr. Willis Kwale, yesterday told the Daily Nation that the available doses will only cover those who received the initial jab and not all of them. There's only 172,000 doses that remain for the second vaccination, while another 130 are expected from the World Health Organization through COVAX program, roughly coming to 300,000 and something doses. That leaves another 600,000 people out of this particular second vaccination drive, and uncertainty is still rife as to when they're going to be getting their second doses. So the ministry is racing against time to acquire the drug, having extended the timeline for interdose administration from 8 weeks to 12. And right now they are just working to get as much vaccines as possibly can be gotten in the short amount of time, and at least to ensure that the first group of people get the full vaccination. So the shortage of doses has been, of course, occasioned by the ban in exports by India's Serum Institute, which is the world's biggest producer of the AstraZeneca vaccine. And we do not know how long this ban will be in play. So the COVAX scheme needs more than 20 billion doses by the end of this month to distribute to countries across the world. According to Dr. Kwale, he said that 30 million Johnson & Johnson vaccine doses the government has procured through the Africa Union, and the first batch of 10 million is expected in just over 2 months from yesterday. So we also have to wait and see. Though they have given a tentative date for receiving of the next batch, we have procured via the AU in August. It's now a question of wait and see, but so far, at least 300,000 people out of the 900,000 that got the first dose will be the only ones who will be getting the second dose, and of course, starting with the priority industry. Ray.
Whoa, let's still keep up the matters of health. Now, the Ministry of Health is planning to roll out a massive immunization campaign in West Pokot and Garissa counties following a measles outbreak. So far, one person has succumbed to measles, and measles is a virus, by the way. It's a viral disease there. Now, according to a disease outbreak report by the ministry dated 29th of May, a total of 615 cases of measles have been reported, out of which 31 confirmed are confirmed, and 1 death was reported. Now, of the confirmed cases, 8 are in Fafi sub-county, Garissa County, and 23 in West Pokot. The one death that was reported was took place in Pokot North. We're in the 21st century and we're still dealing with measles there. This brings me to a question: is, are you sanitizing? Are you social distancing? You know, when it comes to matters of COVID-19? Or have we forgotten that we are riding a pandemic there? There's also an outbreak of dengue fever that has also been reported in 6 counties, in 6 sub-counties in Mombasa, and a total of 424 cases have so far been reported, out of which 24 cases have been confirmed. Now, the cases have been confirmed in Changamwe, Jomvu, Kisauni, Likoni, Mvita, and Nyali sub-counties. So while we're still talking about matters of COVID-19, we have other diseases that we're still grappling with. Now, massive immunization campaign to be rolled out in West Pokot and Garissa to stem the spread of measles that has already claimed 1 life there.
Hi, Regina. We're in the 21st century, yeah? And there's this online dating phenomenon that has recently taken shape. And coming to this particular piece, love-struck top agency boss swindled of 9 million by Ghanaian. Skiza hii. Ndo wanasemanga choices have consequences. So a senior manager with a mobile money lending agency, which we are not going to mention, was allegedly conned 9 million Kenya shillings by a Ghanaian lover she met on a dating site. So according to the DCI, they have already taken up this case, and they actually posted this case on Facebook. They said that they've already arrested the foreigner, who goes by the name Victor Anane. Hey, Vicky. Said that he met this lady online on a dating site and promised to help her and turn her fortunes around, and she fell in love with him. This woman, yearning for love, security, and a promotion at work, fell for the trick. So he introduced himself as a preacher who performs miracles and promised her that he would turn her life around if she fell in love with him. After he convinced her all this, which did not take long, he started asking for money from her. It is not known under what circumstances but she had already given him 9 million by the time he was inviting her over to his home in Athi River. And when she got there, she was shocked to find paraphernalia associated with witchcraft and magical rituals in the house of the man that alleged to be a man of God. That's when she sort of came back to her senses. Akaanza kumuuliza, what are these? She took pictures of the house and called the police later. DCI walifika huko. They haven't given details as to how they got there, but they found 76,000 Kenya shillings in fake currency and other print materials used to print fake money, and all this witchcraft paraphernalia. Choices have consequences. 9 million. Ray, soon you pay your 9 million inunue eka kadhaa.
I don't know.
Under unclear circumstances.
I don't know. What to nguvu wapi? Let me speak Swahili.
But I've come to realize so many people fall prey when it comes to matters faith and matters health.
We're living in of love.
And matters of love. Of course, this particular person approached her as a preacher. As a preacher. Our director is saying, Madam, you wanapenda foreigners.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm the type that if you speak in a certain accent, my friend, I'll take off.
Yes. So this guy approached her as a preacher and telling her he performs miracles.
Jesus.
And this woman was in a space where she was yearning for a promotion, some sense of security and love. Na preacher akasema nini? Mimi ni preacher. Yeah? I perform miracles. If you fall in love with me, I will turn your life around.
Dang. Let's put it this way. The only person who performed a miracle, as per the Holy Book, is Jesus.
And his first miracle was turning water into wine.
Into wine. Whatever you do with that information, that's totally
entirely up to you.
But we're in the 21st century.
This is coffee, just to be clear.
Stop defending yourself, but it's okay. So I think we also, at some point in life, we get desperate. We want to make it in life. We want that dream house we have been wanting. We want that dream man that we have been praying on our knees for. Then someone comes with all this. I think they just read someone's psychology. You can tell even when you're talking to someone who is really desperate for something, they will always keep on mentioning their aspirations, their dreams, their fears and such. So it's very easy to read someone and what they want in life. But now these people have made it a speciality to just prey on those people who are not strong enough, especially mentally. Those people who lack confidence, confidence that comes from within. And that's why these people are swayed this easily. Because I'm thinking, for you to get to a point where you actually give
9 million from
a random
company,
person,
from the money lending institution, because she took that money from the accounts.
9 mil
Kenya shillings converted to...
Whoa. When I say, you see, they say love is blind, but I think it's a high time women, we wore glasses. And if you do not want to wear glasses, in as far as love and interpersonal relationships are concerned, you can always go for laser surgery. You can always do lenses. Just make sure you see through the veneer.
20 by 20.
Because unfortunately, there's some people out here who have silver tongue. They will tell you everything you have wanted to hear. They'll do everything to just ensure you fall into their trap.
This guy from GOT, what was his name?
The Lannisters, who are used to...
The one who used to move around but just speaking when he said knowledge is power. I've forgotten his name.
Baelish.
Yes, Lord Baelish.
Lord Baelish. He knew everything about everybody. His
tongue
was everything. So you need to be very... And people also need to stop wanting quick solutions. I think that's why we're falling into this...
Instant gratification.
Yes, we want quick solutions. Everything has to be built meticulously for it to stand.
A step at a time.
A step at a time, a day at a time. Even if, and we need to stop comparing ourselves with the next person seated or walking next to you. Simply because they found love at the age of 18. it doesn't mean you who is 40 and you've not found someone who is really for you, that you'll not get there. You just need to wait for your person. Yeah? Wait for your person. And this statement that sisi ndio tuko. No, I refuse. I refuse the statement. If someone was meant for you, they'll always find you.
What is meant for you?
Or you'll find them. Yeah, I believe in a superpower there. But now, 9 million, I can't,
9 million.
Especially a foreigner. So I'm wondering, when they were speaking on phone, she couldn't tell that this guy was, we all know what the statistics say. I'm trying not to be racist or biased or something, but we all know a majority of the cons that we have operating within our borders, and I'm saying within our borders because we have the statistics from the DCI, have a certain accent from West Africa.
So as you are on these dating websites, and these dating websites, they give you a disclaimer. Do not give your personal information there, your phone numbers, your bank accounts, even your real names. So when they give those warnings, they know what they're talking about, because so many people get conned on these dating sites. And here we have a clear case of a top-ranking senior manager in a money lending firm conned 9 million Kenya shillings, and she gave this money even before they met.
Now, we're getting a feedback from our very own who is watching this particular show, and they're saying, I wish you'd say conman introducing himself as a preacher, but I like the focus on the vulnerability of that woman. Indeed, this was a conman who was hiding under the guise of a preacher. We have people who are out there who are genuinely helping people in society because for them it is a calling, and they also have a mission to preach the gospel. But unfortunately, there are also people who are hiding under this because, you do not expect a man of God or someone of the cloth to actually be taking advantage of you, because we know God is love, and if God is love, God means, God is patient, God is kind, God is not selfish and all that. So we find it's very easy for people to infiltrate this and, trap unsuspecting believers into believing that indeed they are miracle workers.
And given he had all this witchcraft paraphernalia, there's a picture here. There are claws. Zenye zimevalishwa hizi gloves za kwenda gym. There are red candles all over the place. There are whiskers. There's a plate that has cereals. It has beans, maize, ndengu, green grams for that matter. There's a random scissors on the floor, a pair of scissors, matchboxes, dirt all over the place. Yani,
a scene from a Nigerian movie.
Witchcraft paraphernalia. Bro.
I think he was just doing that to try and show this woman that my friend... maybe scare the woman.
And this scared the woman back to her senses. Like, yo.
Whoa, ngoja.
Hold up. I thought you said you was a man of God. What are these?
Whoa, 9 million up in smoke. Okay.
Just like that.
I wonder what will happen to the company in which she withdrew the money from. Because there's that other aspect.
It's a kuwagori. Moving on to other stories, let us see what else is making headlines here on the Daily Nation. Let me, there was a particular story that I had seen here. No, it's on the People Daily, where KWS had to shoot down a hippo that went rogue and invaded residents in a village in Nyahururu town. And the people enjoyed Madaraka Day feat, where they got free meat. So Kenya Wild Services officers shot down the animal inside Ndorurumo High School, where it had invaded the institution's maize plantation. And this is it's an area where there's a lot of people, so it's quite populous, and it was a risk for most people. It strayed into the school compound, where other animals usually go to graze, and the school watchman is the one who alerted KWS officers, who arrived and killed the animal at 2 a.m. And residents soon gathered, and it was a feast. One said that they were surprised to find it was a hippo that had been killed, and immediately started cutting pieces of meat from it using pangas, which had been carried from their homes. So people who got the news about the killing at dawn found only a skin, as their early risers are the ones who snapped the meat by 4 a.m. Happy Madaraka Day.
I don't know. I've never. Hey, what to try nguvu wapi? You know.
Hippo meat.
You know. Anyway, let's say it's survival. No one died, right?
No one died.
Okay.
It happened a day ago, so we are yet to get reports as to whether those who consumed this meat have been affected in any way whatsoever.
Good for them.
Good for them.
That's the only thing I can say. That takes spirit, that takes gusto, that takes faith.
I feel it
Even
tastes salty.
How do you prepare hippo meat?
It must be really salty.
Is it white meat or red meat?
I should think red.
Do they do it with the skin or without the skin?
The ones who came early at around 4 a.m., they only found skin.
Oh.
So it was skinned by those who arrived early to the party at around 2 a.m. when it was shut down. Wakapata ngozi. What do you have for us before we get to close this segment?
Maybe to just focus on what is happening in the sporting arena. Now, athletics, over 400 athletes have been invited for trials this month. Remember, we are working towards the Olympics. So, eyes on the ball. Now, the athletes who attain the qualification mark for the Tokyo may, however, not realize their Olympic dream if their names were not submitted by Athletics Kenya to the local organizing committee in Japan. Newsflash. So if you're an athlete and you have been eyeing the Tokyo Olympic Games, you need to follow up on the details so that you do not miss that particular feat there. Now, over the weekend, a certain Naomi Osaka, tennis player there, Naomi Osaka, well, she's made headlines over the last few months or so, beating veteran tennis players there. Now, apparently, she is finding herself in a fix, and even she had to quit the French Open. Why? She declined to give an interview after playing her first sets, saying that she was concerned about her mental health. And this goes to say that also these athletes, or rather sportsmen and women, need their, a good mind frame to actually perform as they do, may it be soccer, may it running, track and field, and even tennis. So the 23-year-old said that she was not dealing with the media, and that dealing with the media was not part of her job, and then her withdrawal from the French Open triggered a wave of support around the world. Now, quoted here is the Japan Tennis Association, JTA, Executive Director Toshishas. Yes, please remember I come from Mount Kenya region. Ulimi yangu ni mzito, sisi ni watu wa Harvard. Anyway, so this is according to Japan Tennis Association Executive Director there. Toshisa says that the first thing to be considered is Miss Osaka's health. I wish her the earliest possible recovery. So now Japan has joined leading figures in the tennis in rallying around Naomi Osaka on Tuesday after the world number 2 withdrew from the French Open in a row about post-match media duties, saying she had been suffering from depression and anxiety. So she actually quit the French Open. Kudos, and I'm with her. If something that is not necessary for you as a person and makes you feel inadequate, makes you feel depressed and anxious, you need to cut it off. We're in the 21st century. It's all about self-love and self-care. So you can get further details on what is happening in as far as sports is concerned. You can get that on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. But before we come to a close, and also remind you that now the Court of Appeal judges will be hearing the appeal case in regard to that verdict around BBI. Jane, you can close it up for us.
Absolutely. We just don't want to close before we look at this story very briefly about the shooting that happened in Uganda yesterday morning, where Uganda's transport minister, who used to be an armed forces lead. He was attacked Tuesday morning when he was heading into Kampala. It was an attempt on his life. He is General Edward Katumba Wamala. He was in the company of his daughter and driver, who unfortunately were fatally shot and died at the scene. He also suffered some gunshot wounds and was rushed to the hospital, where he's still receiving treatment, as per what the investigators have said. The scene has been secured and investigations are underway. According to witnesses, they say that 4 men who were masked and riding motorcycles shot around 12 rounds of fired at least 12 rounds on the car, on the driver's side and the rear side, which fatally killed his daughter, the general's daughter, and his driver. And this is one of the latest shootings that have happened in Uganda, attempted killings of high-profile individuals, and more so by motorcycle riding assassins. The other one happened in 2018, where Ibrahim Abiriga, who is was a lead politician in the National Resistance Movement, was gunned down alongside his bodyguard under similar circumstance. Assassins on motorcycles. March 2017, another 4 masked assailants who were riding motorcycles shot and killed Andrew Kiwesi, who was investigating one of their high-profile cases there. March 2015, Joan Kagezi, who was a prosecutor in charge of investigating the jihadist attack in Kampala, was shot dead by armed assailants on motorcycles when she was heading to her home. So this is something that President Museveni has vowed to defeat: armed assailants, and especially so those riding on motorcycles. More of that on the papers this morning. And with that, we put a cap on matters in the headlines, but we have so much more lined for you. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Next on
Sijauliza mamli ngapi, ngauliza pesa ngapi. Lakini sasa ngoja niwaambie kitu kimoja. Wahenga wanasemaje? Asifuzwa na wazazi wake, ufuzwa na dunia. Ndio mambo mnayoyaona jamaa. Anakula kama mchwa. Toa sanduku kwa
sanduku? Sanduku lenyewe li wapi?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
We not the Congo long, just like the Amazon. Split big like a cylinder, man on beat like God.
That's my word. Time to be do it now. I hope you heard, girl.
Solo getting
I found true love, and it feels like freedom. Oh my life.
I'll give you all you want. Don't even have to ask. What will you give me in return?
Give you all my love, my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Give you.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi ndiye Dr. Chua, Alwatan Chua.
Mimi ndiye Dr. Sawasawa.
Mimi ni Dr. Ashraf mwenye hii hospitali.
Ashraf si lolote hapa.
Kwa hiyo daktari, hospitali ni yako kabisa?
I am the boss.
Okay.
That's all. Get passion.
Huyu mwanangu mimi namuona kulegea tu.
Afaa tumpatie tupa moja ya maji.
Haji asikioni.
Hii chupa moja mama, kisha tufanya sahali. Lakini kama wengine tutatia lita 20.
Si majanga haya.
Get passion.
Basi.
Next passion.
Yuendesha.
Huyu ameuza bongo.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Good morning, you're still watching Good Morning Kenya here, and now it's that time we have that interactive segment where we get to have, conversations around things that are close to our heart, and that is about social economic development. This morning we're going to be talking about architecture. I'm sure you have seen the changes that we have around CBD, how different designs have come up. We cannot compare the topographical photos we used to see around, the country and what we are seeing, or rather witnessing, especially in the CBD. We have people who are behind this, and these are none other than architects. So taking us through this conversation to just look at how that particular niche is doing amid the COVID pandemic is none other than Engineer Evans Goro, who is the chairman of the College of Fellow Architectural Association of Kenya. Karibu, sir. Thank you for your time. Now, when you talk about architecture, this people often confuse it with the draftsman, the person who actually draws. So there's a huge misconception as what architecture is all about. Maybe we can start up from there.
Or maybe I propose something else. Let us look at the building industry, which engulfs architecture.
Everybody else.
Yes.
Before we look at the value chain,
now the architect, architect is the person who tries to understand the user, what they need, and create space for it and makes it available and usable. And thereafter, he involves himself with other consultants in the building industry to be able to literally provide what the consumer needs. And these other consultants are many, in the region of 5 or 6 or 7.
Very well said. Thank you for giving that particular overview, because we need to understand within the value chain where architecture comes. And I like what you have said, that the architect is the one who goes further to understand the consumer needs. Now, we're riding a pandemic, and architecture falls within the building and construction sector. From where you sit, how has the industry been, performing during this particular pandemic?
When we look at the human person and their needs and their movements and space required, all that has changed because of the various conditions that this has brought about. So in the industry, this changes a lot of space usage, and this will change a lot of designs in the human requirements, both in activities or no activities. This will call for further research and understanding into the design. Now, going back to your first comment that the draftsman is the one who is known.
Yes, the one who
in the building industry, we
Yes.
have that concept
Yeah.
that the person who wants a house only needs a draftsman and a fundi.
Yes.
And the house is done.
Yes.
That is not the proper concept, and that is why we have a lot of failures in these systems that the user needs but does not get any service for it. A draftsman is there to assist the designers, and the designers are quite many. There is an architectural design, there is an engineering design, and so forth. He is there to save the time of a consultant by putting things into perspective. Now, the users have to come understand what is the beauty of a functional development. But they think and they assume these consultants are too expensive. So they go to the neighbor and ask the fundi, when you finish building this, come I show you where I want to build the same. Yet he gets a house copy of another house, and the two different developments, people don't live the same way. So they are not functional. And it is good to appreciate that professionalism is one of the biggest concepts that needs respect. One of the best professionals that is respected is in the medical world. You go talk to a doctor for 5 minutes. On your way out, you're told by the secretary, bring 5,000, you don't bargain. But when you want to build a house of 10 million, you don't want to pay for services provided for it. You're given windows of the wrong size, doors at the wrong place, rooms that don't relate to each other. You're forced to live in your house the way it is built instead of living the way you want. That's where the failure is.
Cost cutting.
Cost cutting.
And how it affects how we, the setup of the building. So,
Yeah.
Sir Engineer, I want us to go through the trends, because you've said with the pandemic, consumer needs are changing.
Yes, heavily changing.
Yes, let's talk about the issue of space, because when we all started riding this COVID-19 pandemic, there was a series of campaigns. One is work from home. If you don't have to be in the office, don't be in the office. Working on a virtual platform. How has this now affected, what trends are we seeing from that, especially when it comes to building and construction, from the office to also the homes?
This will come into a lot of influence, and this is where professionalism will have to be respected, because if you're working from home, you'll need a few facilities that were not there, especially connectivity activities, which are not easily available. So in the electronic world, I hope the electronic producers will not take advantage and kill the system by overcharging. We will need a better system of connectivity in every house. Like taking an example of Nairobi where the density is very high. If everybody went back to their house to work, how will they connect and relate to each other across the required area? You will need electricity, you will need internet and all this. And this was not a requirement before. Will they be able to afford it? Will the employer be able to provide it? Are we going to network our buildings properly? Now here you go and look for a fundi, you will not work, because the fundis don't know these things. So the fundi here is being smoked out. The other side is when we go into the water issue. Now, water issue has gone up, the demand for it. Do people have that running water? No, very few have it. Who is going to provide it? Where is it going to come from? This is a very basic requirement, and it has to be provided for people to stay in the same premises for 24 hours because they are not going to the office, and most of it has had better water than the houses. This will change the whole concept in the building industry. Then we'll go to other systems where there is requirements of other facilities like academic facilities.
Studies.
How do you have a laboratory in your house? People need to ask themselves those questions. No, people to work from home, but how do you have a laboratory in your house? You can't. You need a supervisor, you need chemicals, you need water, you need disposal facilities and all that. So there is one time or other, people will have to come together in a setup. And this setup now is different because of proximity of human to human. Are we going to be able to provide it? We have to design for it. You have a chemistry laboratory. People have to be 2 meters apart, and they are moving up and down because of picking and sampling chemicals. We have to provide for it. How big are our classrooms? How many students can perform in one setup, for example, in a laboratory? Very difficult. Come to higher educational learning. Come to engineering. how do you have this concrete laboratory performing and you have a class? So let's say like now, University of Nairobi, the classes range from 150 to 250 students in one class. How do you have a laboratory being used, and when it was built for 25 people? Now that will have a big bang in the building industry.
Building industry.
Yes.
Now, sir, you've mentioned something the issue of, symbiosis, people seeing beyond that. And
Yes.
we've seen some of the emerging trends, especially in architectural designs, not just within local, but also on international basis. We have seen people have now merged. Now we have smart buildings, focusing on convenience and efficiency. Is this a trend that we are likely to see catch on? And from where you sit, futuristically, where would we be?
One, the design is highly controlled by a few factors. It is not that the design of a house in France is better than a design in a house in Kisumu. You have to take into consideration the weather patterns. Like flat roofs are not good where it rains because of that control of water. Temperatures, the way the room is going to be provided facility by the user. So this is not being given a lot of consideration in design, rather than we used to have four walls, a window and a door, and you call it a bedroom or a sitting room. Then there is a concept of our way of life. Our way of life controls a lot of the design of that facility you're living in. You will see in some cultures, you will find a grandfather, a grandmother, their kids and the grandchildren all within one big build-up. Yet you'll see in another culture, the grandfather never lives in the same house with the children or the grandchildren.
Yes.
So all these designs have to be considered, requirements and so forth.
Other factors that come through.
Yes.
If you were to take a topography call, just picture from an aerial view of Nairobi, it has clearly changed, even from the way the buildings, the structures. Now we have more glass, less stone. Is this a change when it comes to the materials that are being used in the construction and building? What is influencing that? Is it convenience? Is it the change? Is it affordability?
Well, there is the concept of how you see it, how it looks, the beauty and the concept of architectural requirement. But at times also, there is misuse of material. Because sometimes when you have to clad with material that reflects light, it might affect somebody else, like the road user, and that is an offense. So all this has to be well controlled, and there are authorities that look at all this. And so to say, some authorities are not very particular, but it should be to be able to monitor and see that whatever is being required is not affecting the surroundings. Looking at some buildings in city center and looking at some roads, I'm sure those who are used to Nairobi will know there is a road somewhere where you're driving, you have to shield your eyes from the reflection of the sun, from the glass in that particular building.
Yes.
Names withheld.
Yes.
Yes. That is not proper. And that has to get into some controls.
So from where you sit as an association of, Architectural Association of Kenya, what are you doing to ensure that, the presence of what we want to call as unqualified people posing as architects, because we all have the documents, we all have quirks in one industry or the other. What are you doing to ensure that professionalism is upheld?
Now, looking at the building industry, what are you required to do to put up a building? One, and this is where I would say most people don't appreciate, every building in Kenya that is put up before occupied must have an occupation certificate from the local authority of that area. Now, going backwards, before you get to that occupation certificate, You must have people building it.
True.
Fundis, contractor. All these people must have qualifications and papers which can be checked and found to be genuine.
Authentic.
And they must have some clearance from some authority, naming one, National Construction Authority.
Yes.
And when we are talking of building, we should appreciate anything to be built must be approved. Even the gate where your cattle pass needs approval. But we don't have that manpower, time, and water control. But that is the legal standing. Now, for these people to build it and they've passed that, they must be using some documents. Those documents must be prepared by people with authority to do so. And when they prepare them, they must pass through the local authority for approval, whereby the local authority looks at whether that region can take that construction and so forth, and whether it meets the planning requirement and all that. And these people, when submitting them, must accompany those documents with their certificates. And these certificates must be genuine, they must be counter-checked, and so forth. And it does happen. Now, in some cases, when we submitted with these certificates, those certificates were being misused and given to other people to submit other projects, and this was becoming tedious because some of the local authorities are not that serious in documents control. But now that we are going paperless, online, we are able to curtail all those issues. Two, there are not too many local authorities that have been able to go online. So we are hoping very soon we'll catch up and have everybody online so as to control the system. That way, with that system being followed, we'll get proper building, construction, and facility provided to the user the proper way. Now, these people, consultants, so-called, must be real consultants. They must have been trained properly in the institutions that have capacity to train. There are many institutions of training, but most don't have capacity to train. But they purport to give papers, certificates, and so forth that can indicate that somebody has some capacity to design. But this is also being controlled by the governmental boards that control these designers. There is the Engineers Board of Kenya.
Yes.
There is BORAX, Board of Architecture and Quality Surveyors of Kenya. Those two bodies have capacity to control the system. So you, the developer, when you want to develop something, ensure your designer has the qualifications you need, and you can counter-check this online by linking to those two boards and finding out what level of capacity they have. Yes.
Now, that is where it comes to, the policy and such and the authorities in terms of oversight. Now, let's look at, for example, you've said within the CBD in itself.
Yes.
We have been seeing, a crop up of, or rather movement, especially to the peri-urban areas. So when it comes to urbanization and construction, who is leading who? Is it the need that has been constructed that has been borne by the user, as you've said? Architects understand the user, or what is driving this, the growth in the construction and building?
Looking at urbanization, the first thing that we need to look at and pay respect for is the planning. Has it been done with proper consideration of the people living around? Like, for example, Nairobi is in various zones, and these zones, the occupation is controlled also by the infrastructure available
in those areas.
In those areas. Like when we look at a zone like where towards between Gong Road and around Kilimani and that area, there was a time you could not have more than one house in a certain square footage. Now we have high-rise, which means many houses.
Yes.
That when being approved by the planners, they must make sure the infrastructure is in place. We are looking at water. Is there enough water coming in? We are looking at drainage, storm drainage, foul drainage. Are we able to handle it? We are looking at vehicles. Are we able to handle it? And I don't think this has been attended to properly. So we have all those issues that need a lot of attention.
So what is the risk? Now, you've already, that's a problem. So what is the risk, and what would be our way out? Because, I mean, we are too many of us in a very small
risk is there.
place.
One of the biggest, I call it not risk, challenge.
Challenge. Mm-hmm.
You have very well qualified people who are supposed to be working, but if you look at their 24 hours in a day, they do spend 3 hours sitting in a car that is moving slowly because of traffic jam. That is not proper. Something needs to be attended to as to how this person should spend the least time but should be working and giving some good product. You're looking at water. Very few people in Nairobi can open their taps 24/7 and water comes out. Where is the shortfall? Is it the Mwananchi? No, there's a planning issue feeling somewhere. Looking back into this planning issue, where is it held in place and who is responsible for it?
Good question.
Is it the engineer or the architect?
or the owner, or even the contractor?
Or the contractor or the user? No. There are some governmental bodies that are supposed to take care of these issues, and they don't. And when they are not having good capacity, they don't subcontract it or consult the proper people. So there is a big link into all of this. This network is not a circle. It has openings left, right, and center that needs to be really attended to. And one of the biggest challenges we've seen in the building industry is local authorities have not been given capacity and personnel to do their jobs right. There was a time, I can quote one local authority, it's about 1.5 hours drive from city center. I submitted my design and it was approved by somebody holding a diploma, and he was not an engineering or architectural line, he was a planner. Then you wonder, how does he know about architectural work or engineering work? He doesn't. All he does is spend his signature on a piece of paper and say, that is cleared, now you can talk to the developer and let us monitor how you're going to build it. And on your way, unaweza kumpatia lunch. Those habits are bad.
Or the issue of graft.
Yes.
The issue of graft and how it's
Yes.
affecting professionalism.
A lot and heavily. Going into that, maybe we can scratch a bit of the building industry.
Yes, because
A bit
this,
of
is
the building industry.
this is something that has affected the user.
The user?
That, I intend to spend this amount of money on this project, but someone somewhere wants something so that I can actually finish my project. And therein, now you're saying even you who is rendering the service, you at times are required to cough something. So how do we go about it? We find ourselves in this situation, what do we do?
Yeah, let's look at this professional body.
Yes.
The members, are they involved into this participation? I'll not answer for them, but look at what they are doing.
You're their chair,
Yes.
you would answer.
There is a gentleman, he needs services. He needs to put up a house for his family. He's got children. male, female, and worker, and so forth. And he talks to the consultants and tells them, I would like to spend, when I look at my activities into this investment that will take about 3 years, I like to spend about 9 million shillings. But provide space for this family I've laid out for you. They thought, fine, we will operate within those controls. And they do operate within those controls. But when it comes to what they are doing and what he will pay them, he has no respect at all. Because if he is given the control book, it's part of the laws of Kenya.
Yes.
Chapter 525. It controls architects and conservators. The other chapter is chapter 530, which controls the engineers. It tells you how much, the minimum amount of money you should pay them. Please quote, the minimum, not the highest, the minimum.
The minimum.
And anybody who pays less than that is
in contravention of the law.
Of the laws of Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking on average, this man wanting to spend 9 million shillings, when you add those chapters from the laws of Kenya, it comes, depending on the intensity of the requirement of this building, it comes to about 15 to 12% of that investment. Mm-hmm. Okay?
I'm doing rough math.
Okay.
I've gone to around 10% of 9
Okay,
million.
let's call it 10%.
Yes.
That means this man, out of his 9 million, he needs to put 900 aside for his consultants. Opening up your mind and ideas. Have you ever seen a Kenyan developer putting up a family house and paying consultants 900,000 or $1 million?
You tell me.
No, they even want to pay 90, forget 900. Mm-hmm. So, is he breaking his finger or his arm, the developer? That's a question they should answer, because they have no respect. But when they go to the doctor, 5 minutes, 5,000, they pay.
So what I'm hearing
so
is from
what we need to do is educate the developer to appreciate this service provided and the cost of it. Mm-hmm. I don't blame all of them, because some of them do not know that service properly. But there are those who know.
Okay.
There are
now,
those who know and take
sir,
advantage
as we take
of
a
it.
break, Engineer Evans Goro, we are opening up this platform to conversation. Remember, we are live. You can get us on our Twitter handle, that is at KBC Channel 1 News. We are talking to Engineer Evans Goro, who is saying that we need to, value professionalism, and we're talking about architecture. When we come back, we're going to proceed on and just see what recommendations going forward have been put in place by this fellowship to ensure that this profession does not die out and people get value for their investment as well as their ideas. We'll be right back.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
River Chantelle!
They're not back. Oh.
Mrs. Lee!
What? My mother passed out? Which hospital?
I won't allow you to sell the car.
Go upstairs!
I won't allow you to sell the car!
I checked with the publishing house. Chimu Yuan died a few years ago. You are an imposter. Didn't only lie about your feelings for her, you also stole her money. Tell you what, if you don't return her money...
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If your daughter won't cooperate, then you're being useless. So you do what you have to do, but I want her to have enough nutrition and to get stronger. Is that clear?
If you had told me that you already had a partner, Everything about us would have been completely different, Dad.
Believe me, I had tried. Honestly.
Look, Uncle, the sad thing is, well, your son is a criminal and he must pay for what he did. I couldn't believe he came to rob us. You know what I mean. He took advantage of our trust in you, so he deserves it.
I'm going to see a lawyer, Maya. After that terrible thing that you did,
You have said
I'm going to
enough.
sue for custody. And I won't give her to you ever again. And you're not sending her to America. You hear me?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
We not the Congo long, just like the Amazon. Split big like a cylinder, man up beat like gong.
That's my word. Time for we do it now. I hope you heard, girl.
I found true love, and it feels like freedom. Oh my God.
I'll give you all you want. Don't even have to ask. What will you give me in return?
Give you all my love, my love, my love, my love, my love.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Mwalimu, you almost gave me a heart attack. Why are you talking? You're confusing us.
Confusing you? How? I thought I was out of place. Why don't you go back to your bossy mother and ask her for your forgiveness? And pray very hard that she welcome you back, because clearly you are not meant for this class. Come on, is this a joke?
Of course, it is not a joke.
You haven't even written your name, eh? Can you go and wait for me in the office?
Mr. Tisha, I have been here for so long, so if you don't mind, I have a pressing matter I need to handle.
How about I give you all a pressing issue?
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Kenyan here, we're talking about professionalism when it comes to matters architecture. Joining me, or rather in studio, in person, is none other than Engineer Evans Goro there, who has taken us through the policy as well as what is happening on ground when it comes to that value chain that is construction and building. Kenyans are willing to make investments when it comes to owning homes and buildings, but they're not ready to cough up what is required to get that particular functional project, yani value for money. So we're talking about this conversation, and we are not just here in studio, but we're also joined by two other gentlemen who are joining us via Zoom this morning. This is none other than the president of the Fellowship of Architectural Association of Kenya, Mr. Wilson Mugambi, as well as the vice chairman of that very same organization, Sir Alfred Aluvala. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for tuning in and getting in as far as this conversation is concerned. I'd want to rope in the president of the Architectural Association of Kenya. That is none other than Wilson Mugambi. Maybe you can shed more light into this matter of zoning. Mr. Wilson Mugambi, if you have logged in, would want to hear your take in regard to matters of zoning. Just to put this into perspective, as you're talking about architecture as a profession here in the country. It seems sound is not getting through, but once we get the two gentlemen online, then they will be giving their views in regard to matters of zoning as well the cost of development. So I can see also from this gadget here we have Wilson Mugambi and Sir Alfred Aluvala there. Now, engineer, as we're working to get them on board, let's now talk about the issue of cost, because this is something that Kenyans are really alive to. How, from where you sit then, if I wanted to build a simple home in a peri-urban area,
yes,
how do I go about it to ensure that it is safe and it's going to finally come up and it's going to be safe for my family? and it will not be so overly exorbitant, because issues of cost is what has affected masses of construction, people trying to cut corners.
Yes. Now, one of the basic concepts that we have to look at is your usage. How big do you need your kitchen? So you can give an estimate of so many meters by so many meters. How big is your sitting room? Is your sitting room and your kitchen together? It's your usage, it's your facility. Once you prescribe all these areas in square meters, then from the quantity surveying aspect, you can say my house, I would like it to be very basic. PVC, those plastic floor tiles, normal plaster and paint, and
How are you?
a normal ordinary ceiling of chipboard and so forth. Then you are given some controls by us consultants as to how much that squareage will take. And with those kind of finishes I've mentioned, it comes to about 35,000 per square meter. So you already have now the feeling of space and the cost of it. From there, you can now start adjusting either by reduction or by increasing, depending on your financial aspect. When all that is done, then we can start putting things on good, tidy paper, features you can understand. I think that helps you out.
Yes, that gives me a perspective, you know, if I really wanted to get into building and construction there. I understand now we have Mr. Wilson Mugambi is the president of the Architectural Association of Kenya, as well as the vice chairman, that is Mr. Alfred Aluvala online. Let's start off with Mr. Wilson Mugambi, who is the president. Maybe you can share more, or rather just help us understand the issue of zoning when it comes to, you know, architecture, or rather building and construction from where you sit. You know, are we getting it correct, or are there missing links? Good morning, Sir Wilson.
Are we adapting fast enough to the changes in the market, to the changes in development modalities? Because you find that various counties have what we call a zoning policy, which guides on how various developments can happen in different zones. So you'll see there are areas which are zoned as residential, others are commercial. And that kind of sets the base of what kind of projects can happen. Residential, you can have low-rise or high-rise. Low-rise being a bungalow or simple townhouses, and high-rises being the apartments that have become very common. Same case with commercial. You can have commercial zones which are limited to 2-3 floors. Others can be very high in terms of areas like the CBD. And the same applies to what I would call even the so-called rural areas. Those towns also have a zoning policy. And the challenge for me, in my view, is that there's very little implementation and observation of the zoning policy. And there's also very fast development, especially in urban areas, forcing the planning authorities to have a knee-jerk reaction to what is coming up. So you find by the time they're revising the zoning policy, the developments have moved on to the next stage or next type. So yes, that's the kind of challenge we have with zoning, and we just need to be up to date and be more, what I'll call, instead of being reactive, we need to be more anticipatory in how we look at it. Thank you.
You're saying we need not to be playing catch-up when it comes to such policies. What, sir, would be your comment in regard to the impact that devolution has had in as far as building and construction is concerned? Wilson.
Yes, Regina. Devolution has had an impact of bringing the key functions that were tied to urban areas now going down to the grassroots level. It has actually helped people appreciate that there are professionals who are needed to carry out various projects. And it has also showed us that there is need for capacity building at the lower levels of the counties, because you realize most of the key functions were centered around urban areas. And devolution has made us realize that we need to build the capacity such that we have more spread of urbanization, and we don't just zone areas as urban and rural, because what was once rural a few years ago is actually quite urban now. You look at major towns, Kakamega, etc. there's quite a bit of urbanization happening, and devolution has actually had a very big impact in that.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. Now let's rope in Alfred Aluvala, who is the vice chairperson of the Architectural Association of Kenya, to just, chip in the issue of the cost of development. There we've already heard from Wilson there saying that matters of when it comes to issues of devolution, it has a positive impact, just disseminating or rather distributing this buildings down there. County offices required, we needed county offices, they're already up and running, and projects down in the devolved units. But now, how do we rein in on the cost of development? I had an earlier engaged just a few minutes ago there, Engineer Goro, who's with us in studio, to just help us understand what I would require was just building a home for a simple family in a peri-urban area, the outskirts of Nairobi, what I need to go through, or rather what I need, so that it doesn't become too exorbitant, but it still remains, or rather it attends to my use as a user, functionality. Sir Aluvala, to you.
Thank you. Regina, let me first of all adjust something you said. I am the vice chairman of the College of Fellows of Architectural Association of Kenya. What I would say is that the cost of a building depends on what goes in. And very many people keep on saying that just a simple house. A simple house could mean a small sized or big sized. Small sized could still be more expensive than the big sized, depending on the materials, the quality of materials one has decided to use. You may choose to use golden handrails going up the staircase, while somebody else may just use timber on a small or big house. So the cost of a building will depend on the quality of materials the client would want to use. So if you, Regina, as if you are my client and you want to put up a residential house, of course, very many things, we shall ask you very many questions. How big do you want your living room to be? How big is your bedroom? How big is the kitchen? And so on and so forth. What type of roof do you want? What type of finishes do you want? That is on the floor, in the ceiling, on the walls. What type of windows do you want? Probably you want aluminium windows, or do you want steel casement windows? All those ones do not have the same price. So different prices, different materials call for different prices. And this, if it is in Nairobi, it could probably be slightly cheaper because most of the manufacturing companies are nearby. If you now decide to put the same house in Wajir or Mandera, of course there is transport part of it, so the price of materials tend now to go up and so on. So the farther you go out of Nairobi, the transport cost, the labor, because you may want to import labor, qualified labor from Nairobi to go to, say, Wajir. So that again affects the cost. So very many factors affect the cost that goes into a building.
Very well said, sir. Now, let me just throw some spanner into the works there. We have seen the government really concentrate on the issue of, promoting what they call social housing as well as affordable housing. And there's been quite a question there. What constitutes affordable housing? What makes a house affordable? From where you sit, maybe you can help us understand that conversation, because the conversation that has been thrown back and forth, and some have said the fact that there's a lot of misunderstanding to that. That's why we're seeing the private sector shying away from, really investing in the affordable housing niche. Mr. Alfred.
Yes. Again, using the same reasons I have given, once the government wants now to reduce the cost of a building, you will now they'll tell you that can you give us so many units each going for so much amount of money. So we want to sell, we want people to buy these houses for 2 million, at 2 bedrooms. Now, when it now goes on to like the architect will be asked to design. So once the architect has designed what we may call a low-cost building, sort of depending on the size and the quality of materials that go in, he will have a discussion with me as the quantity surveyor, and then I will cost it, and then we discuss and say that, look, this building has gone beyond 2 million, it is now 2.5, and then we continue to adjust, probably to reduce the bedrooms a bit, to reduce the kitchen a bit, to reduce the living room a bit, and also to adjust the quality of materials. So everything has to be adjusted to fit into what one may call affordable. So if you want, whatever it may mean to affordable, it basically means what can you put, how much does it cost? If it is going to be 3 million, you must design. If affordable is 3 million, it must be designed to that size, to that cost. If it is 5 million, it has to be costed or designed to at that amount of money. And that amount of money is determined by all the professionals coming into play, in that the ones who design will design particular design, and then if it has gone beyond the limit where one was considering as affordable, then we shall now do what we call value engineering. Value engineering is to decide on what to adjust downwards or upwards or quality-wise or adjustment. Don't use this type of tiles, use this other one. Don't use timber, use this material. So we now discuss along those lines until we reach what may be considered affordable for that particular range.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, sir, for elaborating there. The cost of development totally depending not just on the use of that particular structure, but also the materials there to be used. Maybe the reason why private sector is still shying away from investing in affordable housing. Now, as we work towards coming to our close, gentlemen, I'd want, since we have the president, the chairperson, the chairman, and his vice of the College of Fellows of Architectural and Architectural Association of Kenya, I'd want you to give us, your take in regard to matters of professionalism when it comes to building and the building and construction sector. We know the issue of value for money. What you pay, you actually get what you pay for. That is very true in this particular subsector. And even as we go forward, what should we expect from this particular subsector? Let's start off with Mr. Wilson Mugambi, who is the president. Sir, to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Regina. I think on matters of professionalism, we need to be very cognizant of the fact that the most efficient and cost-effective professional is not the one who will come and charge you the highest fees. Professionalism is actually an individual trait, but it can actually be enhanced. And that is why we have the Architectural Association of Kenya, which brings about 7 classes of professionals, and we pride ourselves in being the largest association of built environment professionals. And professionalism means you're able to conduct yourself in a manner that upholds the very tenets of your profession, whether you're an architect, engineer, town planner, QS, landscape architect, construction project manager, or environmental design consultant. As in all those professionals, there are certain guidelines that they are meant to follow. And it's not even just about being very adherent to the legal element. It also means being true to your craft. And we have many of such professionals in Kenya. It says that people are shy from engaging them. They fear the element of the cost factor and whatnot. I think professionalism is something which comes at an individual level. And it's, of course, enhanced by the legal framework that we have. But foremost, it comes at a point whereby we need to be true to our various professions, and with a concerted effort by each and every person involved in any project, then you'll realize a good project, and ideally our industry is one of referral. if I put up a good structure, a good house, or a very good building for Regina, she will refer me to the next person. And that's where the professionalism comes in. If I was not professional enough, if I was not listening to your requirements, if I was literally swaying your project in ways that you are not comfortable with, then you wouldn't refer me to anyone else. And that's how we build our names, by ensuring that we adhere to the set regulations, but we also are very passionate and ensure that we deliver what we need to deliver for our clients. Thank you.
If I can add on, Regina, are we together?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi Dr. Chua, Alwatan Chua.
Mimi ndiye Dr. Sawasawa.
Mimi ni Dr. Ashraf mwenye hii hospitali.
Ashraf si lolote.
Wewe daktari, hospitali ni yako kabisa?
I am the boss.
Okay.
That's all. Next passion.
Mwanangu mimi namuona kulegea tu.
Afaa tumpatie chupa moja ya maji.
Maji asikioni?
Hii chupa moja mama kisha tufanya sahali. Lakini kama wengine tutatia lita 20.
Si majanga haya?
Next passion.
Basi.
Next passion.
Yuendesha.
Huyo ameuzwa bongo.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
For Chantelle.
They're not back. Oh.
Mrs. Lee!
What? My mother passed out? Which hospital?
I won't allow you to sell the car.
Go upstairs!
I won't allow you to sell the car!
I checked with the publishing house. Chimu Yuan died a few years ago. You are an imposter. Didn't only lie about your feelings for her, you also stole her money. Tell you what, if you don't return her money...
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
tonight on KBC Channel 1.
We not the Congo long, just like the Amazon. Split big like a cylinder, man on beat like gong.
That's my word. Time for we do it now. I hope you heard, girl.
I found true love, and it feels like freedom. Oh my God.
I'll give you all you want. Don't even have to ask. What will you give me in return?
Give you all my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Give you.
I feel like I'm failing in what I was put on this earth to do. I want to make a difference, like you did.
You never underestimate the power of grace.
Listen, Donald, I'm sick about the man's family. I was called to minister to people. That's what Mac's doing in my life, Deborah. Showing me what my heart really is.
So you thought you
Just answer me this, Sam. What is there to believe in, man?
I know we in this together, Mac.
You do, so we think that you're good.
I promise to pray for you every day, ask your forgiveness, grant you the same, and be your friend always. That is the grace card.
The Grace Card. Next on.
Bye.
Tiff.
What is it, Eric?
Is that Tiff?
At least find out who Glenn is working with.
Ndamsaka alafu nitakushow.
Kama unataka uzuri, usichukue pesa ya huyo mama. Utaenda jela.
Unataka kumwaga uga.
What do you think is going to happen once you solve your father's mystery?
Let's wait and see.
If I go down for anything whatsoever, you better believe I'm taking Joel and Chris with me.
I can't take this anymore. I'm done.
Cheki, mimi naona tuishie, wewe zidi.
So this is your game plan?
The advent of the novel coronavirus pandemic globally has seen different measures put in place to mitigate the spread of the virus. With this, there has been an exponential increase in the use of face masks for protecting oneself against the virus. Among the is the deaf and hard of hearing. According to World Health Organization (WHO), hearing loss may result from genetic causes, complications at birth, certain infectious diseases, exposure to excessive noise, and aging. In Kenya, as stated by the Kenya National Population Census 2019, there are 918,270 deaf people in Kenya aged above 5 years. This is a significant number that cannot be ignored, and therefore we went out to meet and interact with this community to find out exactly how their lives have been impacted and how they're managing since the pandemic, as most of them rely on lip reading to communicate, yet they must wear masks. Abdon Nestor and his wife Elizabeth Agot live in Umoja Estate in Nairobi with their 3 hearing children, and through our sign language interpreter Stacey Dorcas, they talk to us about how challenging it has been since the onset of the COVID-19, especially in communicating with other people. We ask him if wearing of blocked masks affects communication among the deaf community, and this is what he had to say.
So it does affect, especially wearing of masks, because when you wear the mask, it blocks the mouth, and that's, if you're communicating with a hearing person, you are unable to see what they're saying because that person does not use sign language. So that's how it blocks communication.
And on learning in schools for deaf children, this is what Abdon has to say.
So with learning, for deaf children, there's really good gadgets. For hearing children, it will be simple. Even if the teacher has a mask on, at least they can hear. But for deaf children, it's hard because they won't lip read. So if the teacher, for example, is writing on chalkboard, then how will the deaf children get to understand what the teacher is saying? If at all the teacher is showing paper. So that's why it's very important for the teacher, while using sign language, you have to have face contact, eye contact, so that even if the teacher will miss a sign, but the teacher will show it through the lips, then the children will understand.
Our next stop is Karobanki South Estate in Nairobi. Here we meet Maureen Wayego, a mother of two, Ann Njoki, who is 9 years old and is deaf. Her son Wilfred Kimani is 6 years old, but he can hear. She talks to us on some of the challenges a deaf child can go through and how the transparent masks have been like a savior to her daughter Ann.
Anita, nilijuanga nilinotisingi huyu mtoto after 1 year to 2 akielekea 2 years hivi, nikiweka loudspeaker asikii, nikiweka hata TV hivi mtoto amki, nikimuita itiki. Nikateka action, nikampeleka akiwa na 2 years sasa usi. Kwenda huko usi akapimwa hizo vitu zote akaonekana ni deaf. During this corona ni shida communicate na huyu mtu huyu. Ama akiwa na hizo mask zingine ni shida tupu. Unapata mtoto anaangalianga lips venye pronounce venye unaongea ndio ajue venye ndio ashikanishe. Akiwa hizo zingine itabidi ana struggle, but akiwa na hii unajua venye mta communicate na yeye na tuna go through. Hizi mask zinasaidia kuliko zile zingine. Na sijui tunaweza zitoa wapi. Na si watoto wengi wako na hizi mask. Na watu ni wengi sana wako deaf. Wako wengi, ukienda manyumbani utawapata. Ni wengi. Na sijui tutazipata wapi hizi mask. Hata mimi nikupewa nilipewa. Unapata hadi shule sio wengi wako nazo, ni 2 peke yake. Na watu ni wengi, wako wengi kwa class. Wengine wako na zile zingine au wako na hizi. Unapata hata wangu wako baadhi yako na bahati ako na hii. Yeye hana shida ya kushinda akitoa akicommunicate. Wale wengine unapata anatoa ndio. Unajua kitu ya first of all ujue mwingine na mwingine huwezi jua mwenye kona corona, unaona? Unapata anashika hapa anajiguza yeye mwenyewe. Unashindwa mtu anatoa wapi ugonjwa, lakini ni ile kushikashika. But akiwa na hii, akiwa ameweka atashinda kitu ama kijiguza.
Our search for benefits of these transparent masks takes us to Homa Bay County, where we meet another parent whose daughter, a deaf child, has benefited especially in school from using the transparent masks. This is Triza Amambo, also a mother of 2 children, Blessing Waka, a 9-year-old girl who was born deaf, and her sister Precious Amunga, who is not deaf. Triza did not know Blessing was deaf until she was 6 months old. According to her, it has been a tough journey with her firstborn child, especially in communicating with other people during the COVID-19 pandemic that now forces everyone to wear face masks for protection. Her consolation came when a friend introduced her to the transparent masks.
Na nilinotice Blessing ni deaf akikuwa na miezi 6. Juu daktari ndienda kwa daktari akaniambia mtoto ni deaf na itabidi ukubali ni deaf. So akaniambia ningoje ikifika miaka 5 niende waniandikie barua kumpeleka shule. So nikaenda St. Anne's wakanipea barua nikampeleka shule. Kumpeleka shule. Nikaona at least ameanza kuimprove. Nimeona improvement sana kwa mtoi. Then hii wakati wa corona nimeona pia improvement, especially vile hizi mask zilikuja. Hizi mask vile zilikuja zimeleta improvement kwa Blessing juu communicate na watu. Hata shule na communicate na teacher. Pia teacher ameniambia kuna improvement sana.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If your daughter won't cooperate, then you're being useless. So you do what you have to do, but I want her to have enough nutrition and to get stronger. Is that clear?
If you had told me that you already had a partner, everything about us would have been completely different, Dad.
Believe me, I had tried. Honestly.
Yes. I'm joining online. You're Mr. Please introduce yourself, counsel. Yes, morning, my lord. I'm joining online. My name is Justice Munikia. Justice Munikia. My firm is preparing for IBC and Professor Eustace, Inspector Petition number 8. All right, thank you, Mr. Munikia. Thank you.
Your Lordship.
Is the microphone on? It doesn't seem to be. Margaret?
I'm audible. I'm audible enough.
Yes.
I'm Ms. Miguto, appearing with St. Council Mother Kadua for the second, third, and fourth hearing.
All right, thank you.
My name is Ian Witty. I'm appearing together with the field Mutua and just for the event. Right.
In this application, I call you to for the 26th respondent and also here for the project Is there any other council who is introducing himself or herself? Let's do it faster. All right. Then the next one should be E-163 of 2021, Honorable Attorney General versus David and Alice. This is the Lord, my ladies. That one here together with the City Council tomorrow with the leaders for the applicant. Thank you.
May it please my ladies and my lord, my name is Nelson Harvey. I appear for the first to the fifth respondents together with Ms. Esther Mao.
Thank you.
May it please you, my lord, my ladies. My name is Elias Mutuma, appearing for the 7th, 8th, and 9th respondents.
All right. Any other council in E-163?
Yes, my lord. My lord and my ladies, my name is Mudomi Nkuru, appearing together with Moraro Moke for the 13th respondent.
All right. May it please you, my lord? Yes.
My name is Wambuma. I do appear for the 15th and 17th respondent.
Yes.
I'm also going to bring for Mr. Uyoni for 14th and 16th respondent.
All right. Thank you.
It is your honor. I am Alua Chair, 21st respondent.
Very well, thank you. Any other council?
May it please the court. My name is Kanjama. I'm appearing